Rain pounds the alley like gunfire as Scott McCall, the city's most ruthless mafia boss, spots her, a bloodied female cop gasping her last breaths, eyes locking onto his with desperate fire. His unbreakable rule screams to walk away, but her whisper cuts through. They're coming back to finish it, revealing the same monsters who slaughtered his brother years ago. What happens when a kingpin breaks his code to save his deadliest enemy? Will it ignite a war that buries them both? Or expose a cop conspiracy that shatters the force forever? Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe and like. More thrilling stories are coming your way. Let us begin. The rain fell like bullets on the asphalt. Scott McCall pulled up his collar, water streaming down the tribal tattoos snaking up his neck as he walked alone after a brutal day, cutting through the empty industrial district just to clear his head. Then he heard it, a weak, desperate gasp cutting through the storm. He moved closer and froze. There, under the flickering streetlight, a female cop, beaten, bloodied, and barely breathing, lay sprawled on the cold pavement. Scott McCall stood over her, his heart pounding, his mind racing. Should he save the dying cop or drive away? He'd built his empire on one unbreakable rule: never touch police business. But her blood was washing away with the rain, and something in her eyes, defiant even in death, refused to let him leave. Scott McCall was not having a good day, the kind where every move felt like stepping on a landmine. The Kozlov negotiation had started civil territory lines, warehouse access, a cut of the dock shipments. Then words turned to shoves, and Scott's fist found a Russian's jaw. Knuckles split, blood on the concrete floor of the abandoned mill where they met. The Kozlovs walked out swearing war, and Scott's own crew watched him like he was a bomb with a short fuse. Marcus, his second in command, waited until the door slammed. "Boss, we're bleeding. 3 shipments hit this month. People are talking, you're losing grip." Scott stared until Marcus dropped his gaze, but the words stuck like burrs. He needed space, air that didn't smell of gunpowder and doubt. So he did something rare. Dismissed his security with a sharp gesture. "I'm walking, alone." Marcus opened his mouth, thought better, closed it. Scott was already moving, coat flapping in the wind, boots splashing through puddles that reflected the orange haze of sodium lights. Midnight. The industrial district was a graveyard of rust and silence. Warehouses with broken windows, chain-link fences sagging like old skin. Scott liked it here, no demands, no eyes on his back. Just the steady drum of rain on corrugated metal and the low rumble of a distant train. Hands deep in his pockets, shoulders hunched, he let the storm scrub the day from his skin. He replayed the failures. Kozlov circling like sharks. Marcus's doubt, the weight of an empire built on fear and favors. He'd clawed his way up from nothing: streets, fists, deals in back rooms. Survived betrayals, bullets, prison whispers. But tonight the crown felt like concrete. Then he heard it, faint, almost lost in the downpour. A weak gasp, ragged, human. Scott stopped, body rigid, every instinct screaming to keep walking, mind his business. He'd built everything on one rule: never involve himself with law enforcement. Cops meant heat, investigations, the kind of attention that burned empires to cinders. Walk away, always walk away. But the sound came again, weaker, desperate. Scott's feet moved before his brain caught up. He turned toward a flickering streetlight at the mouth of a narrow alley between 2 derelict buildings. The bulbs stuttered like a dying pulse, throwing shadows across wet concrete. And there she was. A woman in a police uniform, sprawled like a broken shield. Badge glinted Detective Elena Stone before blood and rain swallowed it. A deep gash carved her left cheek, temple to jaw, edges swelling purple. Uniform torn at the shoulder, revealing a stab wound pulsing dark. Ribs shattered, each breath rattled wet. No service weapon. Fingers bent wrong, broken with purpose. Someone had taken time, made it hurt. Scott crouched, rain hammering his back. Her eyes fluttered open hazel, sharp, refusing to quit. They locked on his, defiant. Lips moved. "They're coming back to finish it." The words hit like a blade. He knew this work. Broken fingers to stop resistance, rib strikes to puncture lungs slow, facial cut to scar. The Delgado trafficking ring's signature. Same monsters who took his brother David 5 years ago. Found in a shipping container. Same wounds, same cruelty. Investigation closed in 48 hours by then Lieutenant Marcus Delgado. No leads. His rule roared, "Walk away." Cops were poison. But her blood pooled, mixing with rainwater, running toward the storm drain like it was escaping. Her eyes held his, unyielding. He cursed, low and vicious. Scooped her up. She was too light. Blood loss. Shock. The body folding. Head lolled against his chest, soaking his shirt crimson. Her hand gripped his jacket. Weak. "Why?" she rasped. "Because someone should have saved my brother," Scott said, voice raw. "And no one did." He carried her to his blacked-out Charger 2 blocks away. Storm swallowing his footsteps. Back seat, cold leather, better than pavement. He laid her down, blood smearing like war paint. Slammed the door, slid behind the wheel. Her eyes opened again. "You're Scott McCall," she whispered, fear and recognition mixing. "The most dangerous man in the city just saved a cop's life. Why?" Scott met her gaze in the rearview, rain streaking the windshield. "Because we have the same enemy, detective, and tonight, that makes us allies." He floored it, tires screeching, storm chasing them into the dark. Scott drove like the city itself was trying to kill them. The Charger fishtailed through flooded intersections, wipers fighting a losing war against the deluge. Elena faded in and out in the back seat, each breath a wet rattle that scraped Scott's nerves raw. He stuck to back alleys, avoided traffic cams, the skyline a smear of neon and shadow. The abandoned textile factory on the east side looked like every other ruin, boarded windows, graffiti, chain-link fence half collapsed under years of neglect. But Scott knew the hidden entrance behind the loading dock, the retinal scanner disguised as a rusted junction box. He carried Elena down concrete stairs, her blood leaving faint smears on the steps. The underground facility was a fortress. Steel doors, reinforced concrete, a medical suite that rivaled any ER. Scott had built it after David's death, vowing no one else would die, waiting for help that never came. Marcus and 2 guards waited in the corridor, rifles slung low. Their eyes widened at the cop in Scott's arms, blood soaking his coat. "Boss, you brought a cop here?" Marcus hissed, stepping forward, voice low to avoid echoing. "This is suicide. When the department realizes she's missing, they'll tear the city apart. Get Chen," Scott snapped, brushing past. "Move." Dr. Sarah Chen arrived 10 minutes later, scrubbing in with calm precision. 50-something, former trauma surgeon, license stripped after opioids swallowed her life. Scott had found her in a dive bar, drowning in regret. Gave her purpose, a second chance. She owed him everything. Under harsh surgical lights, she assessed Elena. Collapsed lung, internal bleeding, 3 broken ribs, facial laceration needing 60 stitches, concussion, hypothermia creeping in. "She's got an hour, maybe less," Chen said, voice steady but urgent. "I need to operate now." Scott watched through the observation window as Chen worked. The heart monitor beeped erratically, a frantic rhythm. Elena flatlined once. Chen's hands were lightning defibrillator, chest compressions, epinephrine. The line jumped back. "Whoever did this knew how to maximize pain," Chen muttered, suturing the facial gash with meticulous stitches. This wasn't random. It was a message. Scott's fists clenched until knuckles went white. He'd seen these wounds before. The memory surged, unbidden. 5 years ago. David, 17, walking home from basketball practice. Straight as. College scholarships. A future brighter than Scott's ever was. Kidnapped without a trace. 3 weeks later, police found his body in a shipping container at the docks. Broken ribs, puncturing lungs, facial trauma, signs of prolonged torture. The detective in charge? Marcus Delgado, then a lieutenant. Investigation closed in 48 hours. No leads. Case gone cold. Scott had spent 5 years digging trafficking rings, corrupt cops, buried evidence. He'd never found who shielded David's killers. Until tonight. The surgery lasted 4 hours. Chen emerged, scrubbing blood from her forearms. She'll live. Barely. She's a fighter. I'll give her that. At 3 a.m., Elena woke in the recovery room. Confusion flickered across her face. Then terror when she saw Scott leaning against the wall, arms crossed, tattoos peeking from his collar. She tried to sit up. Gasped. Ribs screaming. Where am I? Her voice was hoarse, raw from the breathing tube. You're Scott McCall. Yes, he said, stepping closer, voice low. And you're alive, because I broke my most important rule. So let's not waste it. Her hand moved to her empty holster, fingers trembling. Scott noticed, and smiled without humor. I'm not your enemy, detective. The people who tried to kill you think you're dead. Let's keep it that way until we know who sent them. Elena's eyes narrowed, sharp despite the drugs. I know who sent them. Captain Marcus Delgado, and he won't stop until I'm actually dead. Marcus burst in, face flushed, voice urgent. Boss, we've got a problem. The department's asking questions about this facility. Someone tipped them off. He glanced at Elena, then back to Scott. 30 officers, full tactical gear, military-grade weapons, no marked vehicles. They're not here to arrest anyone. They're here to eliminate witnesses. Scott's jaw clenched. How long? 20 minutes. Maybe less. Elena struggled to sit up, wincing, pain-etching lines around her eyes. They're coming for me. Delgado declared me dead 6 hours after the ambush. No investigation, no questions. He personally signed off on closing my case. Scott looked at her, then Marcus. Lock it down. Every man to stations. Rooftops. Corridors. Choke points. Alarms wailed, red emergency lights bathing the facility in a bloody glow. Elena grabbed Scott's sleeve, her grip surprisingly strong. You should have left me in the rain. Scott met her gaze, unflinching. Maybe, but I didn't. And now, we're both in this. He handed her a Glock. Checked the magazine himself. Can you shoot? Better than you, she said, voice steady despite the pain. Scott almost smiled. We'll see. In the command center, a converted storage room with monitors lining the walls, Elena leaned against a table, breathing shallow. I was undercover, she said, voice low but clear. 8 months. Posed as a corrupt cop. Got inside Delgado's trafficking ring. Transport routes, safe houses, client lists. I was close to bringing it all down. Scott listened, arms crossed. How deep? Deep enough to know Delgado's not just protecting them. He's running it. The monitors showed black-clad figures moving through the rain, laser sights cutting red lines across the compound. Torres's voice boomed through a megaphone. Scott McCall, you're harboring a fugitive. Send out Detective Stone or we come in. Scott grabbed a radio. She's not a fugitive. She's a witness to your crimes. 2 minutes. Elena checked her watch, wincing. 19 hours, 40 minutes, until my evidence uploads. Scott's mind raced. 12 men against 30 trained officers. Bad odds. Then he smiled. Cold. Dangerous. He pulled out his phone, sent one text. All in. Now. Marcus stared. Boss, what the hell are you doing? Changing the game. 3 minutes later, engines roared. Headlights pierced the storm. 60 vehicles, Russian mob, bikers, street gangs. Every crew Scott had ever dealt with converged. Over 100 armed men surrounded Delgado's team. News helicopters circled, drawn by the chaos. Torres's unit, outnumbered 3-1, couldn't fight without explaining a war zone. They retreated, tires spinning. But Scott's phone rang. Unknown number. Delgado's voice, smooth and venomous. Impressive, McCall, but you've made a mistake. In 18 hours, her evidence uploads. I'll find her. I'll kill her in front of you. Then everyone you've ever cared about. Scott's grip tightened. Then we don't wait. We take the fight to you. The compound was compromised. Scott ordered evacuation, while the last of Delgado's tactical team peeled away into the rain. Engines faded into the night, but the threat lingered like smoke. Scott's men moved fast, wiping hard drives, torching paper trails, loading weapons and medical supplies into unmarked vans. Elena, ribs taped, face stitched into a roadmap of pain, refused a stretcher. "I walk or I don't go," she said through clenched teeth. Scott didn't argue. He supported her weight as they descended to the sub-basement garage, Marcus covering their six. They relocated to the secondary safe house, an abandoned downtown hotel, its Art Deco bones still elegant beneath decades of dust. The penthouse had been gutted and rebuilt command center, armory, med bay. Only Marcus and 3 trusted lieutenants knew the location. Scott carried Elena up the service elevator, her blood spotting the marble floor. She hissed with every step, but never complained. Inside, red emergency LEDs cast long shadows. Monitors lined one wall, cycling through city traffic cams, police bands, news feeds. Elena sank into a leather chair, sweat beading despite the chill. Scott poured her water. She waved it away. "No drugs. I need clear." He nodded, respect flickering behind his eyes. Delgado's manhunt was already live. Police scanners crackled. Falsified APB, claiming Elena Stone was armed, delusional, suffering a breakdown after line-of-duty trauma. A $100,000 bounty for information. Every CI, dealer, and street rat was being squeezed. Delgado's voice came over an intercepted call. "Find her, or I start with your families." Cold, efficient, final. Scott's network hummed in response. Lookouts reported clean cops being pulled off shifts, corrupt ones mobilizing. Delgado's 12 were ghosts in uniform, moving in plainclothes SUVs. Scott's own crews, Russian, Latino, biker, went dark, cell phones off, burners only. The city held its breath. In the penthouse, Elena laid it bare. 8 months undercover. She'd started as a beat cop with a hunch. Missing runaways, shipping containers at the docks, girls vanishing from bus stations. Her captain shut her down. So she went rogue. Built a legend as Officer Stone, willing to look the other way for the right price. Delgado bit, invited her into the pipeline. "I mapped 4 cities," she said, voice raw. "Safe houses in condemned buildings. Transport every Thursday, semis with false floors. Clients, councilmen, a federal judge, 2 CEOs. 15 million a year, laundered through shell charities." She pulled a micro SD from her boot heel. Scott hadn't even seen her palm it. "Everything's on here. Bank records, photos, audio. I was 48 hours from extraction when Torres sold me out." Scott's jaw worked. "Torres?" "Delgado's enforcer. Beat me himself." Delgado watched. Her eyes went distant. "He smiled when I begged." Scott poured whiskey, took a pull, offered it. This time, she drank. "My brother David was victim 38, he said. 17. Good kid." Delgado closed the file in 48 hours. "I've spent 5 years chasing ghosts. You just handed me the man holding the leash." Elena studied him. "You're not what the files say. Files lie." He set the glass down. "So do I, when it suits. But not about this." He told her the rest. The shipments, rival gangs kept hitting, rescue runs. 23 souls pulled from shipping containers, brothels, basements. Anonymous tips to police ignored. Direct action when badges failed. "I'm a criminal," he said. "But I know the system eats the weak, so I hunt outside it." Elena's laugh was bitter. "A mafia boss with a conscience. Don't romanticize it. I'm still a killer. You saved me. You're useful." She smiled despite the pain. "Liar." Her insurance. A dead man's switch. Every 72 hours, she entered a code on an encrypted server. No code. 8 months of evidence auto-uploaded to FBI, Interpol, every major network. "I've been dark 4 days. Timer hits 0 in 18 hours. Scott's phone buzzed. "Delgado's circling. Drones over the river. They know we moved." Scott looked at Elena. "We run?" He burns evidence, kills witnesses, spins the upload as a hoax. "We stay. He finds us." "Or," she asked, "we make him come to us. In the open." He laid out the plan. Delgado's 9 a.m. press conference, announcing Elena's death, praising her service, closing the case. Scott would crash it, walk her in alive, cameras rolling, FBI watching the switch. Evidence drops mid-chaos. Delgado exposed live. Elena stared. You want to stroll into police HQ, where he owns every badge? Scott's smile was winter. He can't shoot you on camera without hanging himself. I'll have 60 men in the crowd. News choppers overhead. One wrong move, the world sees. Suicide. Calculated. She checked her watch. 16 hours. If we pull this off, we don't just take Delgado, we burn the whole network. Marcus burst in. Boss, Delgado's on every channel. Press conference confirmed. He's bringing the mayor. Scott nodded. Perfect. Elena stood, swaying. I need a shower, clean clothes, and a mirror to practice not looking dead. Scott caught her arm. You sure? I've been dead 4 days. Time to resurrect. 12 hours to upload. The penthouse became a war room. Scott's lieutenants filtered in, silent, efficient. Maps on tables. Weapons cleaned. Drones launched to watch police movements. Elena showered, emerged in black tactical pants and a borrowed hoodie, stitches stark against pale skin. She moved like every breath cost, but her eyes were steel. Scott contacted media anonymously. Detective Stone alive. Major corruption revealed tomorrow. Ensured every network would pack the plaza. Reached FBI agent Rivera owed Scott from a favor years back, when Scott tipped him to a dirty agent, planted the dead man's switch rumor. Rivera confirmed. Feds monitoring, ready to move. Scott positioned 60 men. Rooftops, vans, crowds, bikers in plainclothes, Russians in news vans. If Delgado twitched, they'd extract Elena by force. Marcus fitted her with a wire, recorders sewn into her jacket lining. Insurance, he said. Elena examined her reflection. The gash was a livid slash, stitches black against swollen flesh. Bruises bloomed purple across her ribs. She looked like death warmed over. Good. Let them see what Delgado did. She wrote a letter to her sister, sealed, left on the desk. If I don't come back, tell Mom I tried. Delgado called Scott direct. I know you're planning something. Don't be stupid. Scott's voice was ice. Hand her over. Keep your empire. She's not worth it. You killed my brother. You've murdered dozens. You think I'll trade? Your brother was collateral. Weak. Like Elena. Scott's knuckles whitened. You want her? 9 a.m. press conference. I'll bring her. Let's see if you'll kill a cop when the world watches. Delgado laughed. Low and ugly. You're delivering yourself. I'll be waiting. Night fell. City lights glittered below like broken glass. Elena stood at the window, rain starting again. Why risk everything, she asked. You don't owe me. Scott joined her, whiskey in hand. David believed in second chances, saw good in everyone, wanted to teach kids like him, poor, smart, no shot. When he died, I promised I'd stop the people who took him. 5 years hunting shadows. You gave me a name. She turned. He'd be proud. Scott's laugh was bitter. I'm a killer, detective. You save people. That counts. Silence stretched, heavy with unspoken things. 2 people on opposite sides of a line, bound by blood and vengeance. At 3 a.m., Elena's alarm beeped. 6 hours. She looked at Scott. If we die tomorrow, we take Delgado with us. Scott chambered around. We're not dying. His empire is. Rain hammered the windows like it wanted in. 6 hours to 0. The penthouse smelled of gun oil, coffee, and ozone from the storm. Scott stood at the map table, tracing routes with a grease pencil, while Marcus relayed final confirmations. Every crew was in place. Russians on the rooftops across from headquarters, bikers in the underground garage, Latino runners seated through the press pool with press badges and hidden GoPros. Rivera's FBI team had taken a maintenance floor in the federal building 2 blocks away. They'd be live on the switch the moment Elena's heartbeat skipped a code. Elena sat on the couch, cleaning a Glock with mechanical precision. The stitches across her cheek pulled every time she grimaced, but her hands never shook. She'd swapped the hoodie for a dark police windbreaker, her own, retrieved from evidence lockup by one of Scott's ghosts. The badge was gone, but the word police still screamed across the back. She wanted them to see it coming. Scott slid a vest across the table. Kevlar. Stops most rifle rounds. She shook her head. Too bulky. Cameras need to see the damage. She lifted the windbreaker. Bruises bloomed violet across her ribs. The facial gash, a raw accusation. Let them flinch. Marcus handed her an earpiece. Live feed to Rivera. If Delgado jams cell towers, this still pings the switch. Scott checked his watch. 3:17. Wheels up at 7:30. We roll in civilian. No convoy. Just me, you, and the rain. Elena's laugh was dry. Romantic. Efficient. Efficient. She stood, testing weight on cracked ribs. Pain flared. She breathed through it. I need 5 minutes. She disappeared into the bedroom, closed the door. Scott heard the shower hiss hot water to loosen scar tissue, to feel human before she walked into the lion's den. He used the time. Called Dr. Chen. Package ready? Sedatives, blood expanders, trauma kit in the SUV. If she bleeds out on camera, I'm 2 minutes away. Good. Elena emerged in fresh clothes, hair still wet, stitches stark. She looked like a soldier who'd already died once and didn't care about round 2. Scott handed her a burner phone. 1 number. Mine. Anything feels off, you hit speed dial. My guys flood the plaza. She pocketed it. And you? I'll be the distraction. They moved to the window. Rain sheeted the glass, city lights smearing into watercolor. Elena spoke without looking at him. 8 months undercover. I forgot what sunlight felt like. Thought I'd die in a container like your brother. A pause. Thank you for the rain. Scott's voice was low. Don't thank me yet. Headlights swept the street below 2 unmarked SUVs. No plates. Marcus's voice crackled over comms. Delgado's advance team. Snipers on the courthouse roof. They're early. Scott's smile was razor thin. They're nervous. Elena checked the Glock. Racked the slide. Good. 8:57 a.m. The plaza in front of police headquarters was a living organism, pulsing under a slate-gray sky. News vans double-parked along the curb, cables snaking across wet concrete like black veins. Reporters huddled beneath umbrellas, breath fogging in the cold, their faces lit by the blue-white glare of camera lights. Uniformed officers formed a loose cordon, some confused, others scanning the crowd with the predatory stillness of wolves. Overhead, news choppers thumped, rotors chopping the drizzle into mist. Captain Marcus Delgado stood at the podium in full dress blues, medals gleaming like accusations. His face was arranged in practiced grief, the kind politicians perfect after decades of funerals and photo ops. Detective Elena Stone gave her life in the line of duty, he intoned, voice carrying over the PA system, smooth as oil. A dedicated officer, a hero to this city. The mayor flanked him on the right, nodding solemnly, hands clasped. Torres, Delgado's enforcer, lurked stage left, hand inside his coat, eyes sweeping the crowd like a sniper's scope. Scott's black Charger rolled to the curb with no flash, no sirens. The engine cut. Silence rippled outward as he stepped onto the wet pavement. Leather coat open, shoulder holster visible, tribal tattoos stark against rain-slick skin. Every cop within 50 feet reached for a weapon. Cameras swung like turrets, lenses zooming. Reporters recognized him instantly. Scott McCall, the most wanted man in the city, walking into police headquarters like he owned it. Then Elena emerged from the passenger side. Rain plastered her dark hair to her skull, blood crusting the 60 black stitches that carved a jagged path from temple to jaw. The police windbreaker clung to her frame, the word police, in white letters across the back, now a cruel irony. She moved with the deliberate slowness of someone whose every breath cost blood, but her eyes burned hazel, sharp, alive. The plaza went dead silent, the kind of hush that falls before a storm breaks. Delgado's smile froze. cracked, shattered into something feral. Torres's hand tightened on the grip inside his coat, knuckles white. Elena walked the gauntlet. Reporters parted like the Red Sea, phones rising in a forest of glowing screens. She climbed the 3 concrete steps to the stage, Scott a shadow at her back, hand resting lightly on the small of her back to steady her without making it obvious. Microphones thrust forward like spears, hungry for sound bites. Delgado recovered first, voice oily with false warmth. "Detective Stone, we feared the worst. This is nothing short of a miracle." Elena leaned into the podium, one hand gripping the edge to keep from swaying. Her voice cut through the rain, amplified, raw but steady. "You ordered my execution, Captain. 4 days ago, Torres and 3 of your officers ambushed me in an alley, beat me, stabbed me, left me to bleed out, because I spent 8 months inside your trafficking ring." She held up the micro SD between blood-crusted fingers, letting cameras zoom in. Transport logs, bank records, 37 victims, including David McCall. She turned to the sea of lenses. In 90 minutes, every byte uploads to the FBI, Interpol, every major network. "Unless you kill me on live television right now." The plaza detonated. Shouts erupted, camera flashes strobed, reporters surged forward, cordons straining. Delgado's face went corpse white, then flushed crimson. Torres drew too fast, too stupid. The suppressed crack of his pistol split the air. Scott moved faster, shoulder-checking Elena behind the podium as the round sparked off the metal seal of the city. Chaos. FBI agents in Navy windbreakers poured from the crowd. Agent Rivera in the lead, weapon up, badge flashing. "Federal warrant. Stand down." Scott's men emerged from doorways, vans, rooftops, 60 guns trained on the stage, in perfect synchronization. Clean cops froze, hands hovering over holsters, unsure whose side was which. Dirty ones opened fire. Bullets sparked off the podium. Scott shoved Elena flat, returned 2 rounds center mass on Torres's vest. The enforcer staggered but kept coming, face twisted in rage. Elena rolled, came up firing controlled pairs into the corrupt cluster stage left. One officer dropped, clutching his thigh. Another spun, blood blooming across his shoulder. Delgado bolted for the headquarters doors, dress shoes slipping on wet marble. Scott lunged, tackled him mid-stride. They crashed through the glass doors in a shower of shards, rolling across the lobby floor. Delgado's elbow caught Scott's jaw. Scott answered with a knee to the ribs that cracked like kindling. Cameras caught every second through the broken doors, live feeds streaming to millions. Rivera's voice boomed over the chaos. "Cease fire! Cease fire!" FBI tactical breached the cordon, zip-tying anyone in uniform who'd drawn. Scott's men held the perimeter, weapons lowered but ready, a wall of discipline against panic. Elena stood over Delgado in the shattered lobby, Glock steady despite the tremor in her arm. Blood trickled from a reopened stitch on her cheek, mixing with rain. "It's over." Delgado spat blood onto the marble, teeth red. "You think this ends me? I am the system." "No," she said, voice like steel. "You're just the rot we're cutting out." Outside, the plaza became a crime scene in minutes. News choppers circled like vultures. Lenses trained on the broken glass, the blood, the zip-tied officers. Elena's timer hit 0 mid-chaos. Phones buzzed nationwide. Headlines detonated across every screen. Police captain exposed as trafficking kingpin. Live shootout at press conference. 37 victims' names released. Evidence flooded every network. Delgado shaking hands with traffickers in grainy surveillance stills. Wire transfers time-stamped to the minute. Victim photos with metadata. David McCall's face 17, smiling in a yearbook photo, flashed on every channel. A ghost-given voice. FBI marshals cuffed Delgado on camera. He fought, screaming about immunity, about protecting the city from animals like McCall. They dragged him past Elena, past Scott, who stood with a graze bleeding at his neck, coat torn. "This is revenge, not justice," Delgado snarled. Scott met his eyes, voice low. "Justice is what those kids never got. This is accountability." Within hours, 12 officers in custody. 3 councilmen resigned mid-press release. 2 judges suspended pending investigation. The deputy mayor's office raided live on air. Federal task forces descended on 4 cities. 89 victims located, some in shipping containers still docked, some in basements with padlocked doors. All alive, all terrified, all free. Elena testified for 6 hours before a grand jury, voice never wavering despite the painkillers wearing off. 37 indictments handed down that week. Delgado faced 12 counts of murder, 89 of trafficking, corruption charges that would bury him for lifetimes. Scott vanished mid-interview. One moment he was giving a statement to Rivera outside the federal building, the next, gone. No trace, no goodbye. Just the echo of his boots on wet concrete and the faint scent of gunpowder in the air. The plaza was a frozen tableau of aftermath. Rain had thinned to a mist, but the air still tasted of cordite and wet concrete. FBI vans ringed the perimeter, red-blue lights strobing across shattered glass. Medics swarmed. Torres on a gurney, vest cracked open, ribs likely broken. 2 corrupt officers bleeding into the marble. Scott refusing treatment for the graze on his neck, blood soaking his collar dark. Elena stood in the lobby, Glock lowered but still in hand, watching marshals drag Delgado past. His dress blues were torn, medals dangling like broken promises. He twisted to glare at her. "You'll never be safe," he hissed. "I have friends in places you can't touch." She leaned in, voice low. "Your friends are on the list. Every name uploads in 30 seconds. His eyes widened. The timer on her watch beeped. 0. Screens everywhere lit up. News tickers screamed. Phones vibrated in pockets. The micro SD's contents, 8 months of meticulous work, cascaded across the world. Bank wires from shell charities to Delgado's personal accounts. Audio of him ordering Torres to clean up the stone problem. Photos of victims, timestamps, locations. David McCall's name at #38, his yearbook smile now a national ghost. Within an hour, 12 officers were in cuffs. 3 councilmen resigned on live TV, faces ashen. 2 judges had their chambers raided. The deputy mayor's office was sealed before lunch. Federal task forces hit 4 cities, simultaneously docks, warehouses, safe houses. 89 survivors, pulled from hellholes, wrapped in blankets, blinking at daylight. Elena testified for 6 straight hours in a federal courthouse, voice hoarse but unbroken. She laid out every route, every client, every dollar. Grand jury returned 37 indictments by sundown. Delgado faced 12 murder counts, 89 trafficking, racketeering that would lock him away for centuries. Scott slipped away during the chaos. One moment he was beside Rivera, giving a clipped statement. The next, he was gone. No trace, no goodbye. Just the faint scent of rain and gun oil lingering where he'd stood. 3 weeks later, Elena, promoted to sergeant, handed a $2 million anti-trafficking task force, stood in an empty warehouse Scott once owned. Dust danced in flashlight beams. Every location the same. Stripped, sold, erased. Marcus, nursing coffee in a diner, shrugged when she asked. "Boss paid us out. Told us to go straight." Then poof. A package waited on her new desk. Plain manila, no return address. Inside, 23 photographs. A teacher in Seattle, smiling at a chalkboard. A nurse in Denver, holding a newborn. A college freshman in Miami, cap and gown. All alive. All rescued by Scott before she ever met him. At the bottom, a note in sharp handwriting. "Sergeant Stone, 23 before you. 89 because of you. 112 second chances. David was #38. I couldn't save him. But I kept the promise. Don't look for me. Keep the task force sharp. The shadows still need a ghost. S.M." She pinned the photos to her office wall. A constellation of lives. 6 months on, 3 more rings dismantled. An anonymous tip, perfect intel. 12 victims freed in a dawn raid. Elena stood on the scene, watching children hug parents, and smiled. She recognized the handwriting on the tip sheet. Somewhere in the rain-soaked city, a man with tribal tattoos watched the news on a burner phone, nodded once, and melted into the night. 1 year later, Elena placed lilies at David McCall's grave. Fresh ones already lay there. Placed at dawn, she whispered, he kept his promise. Rain fell. She didn't run. Across the city, a ghost in the shadows did the same. The Mafia boss and the cop, bound by one stormy night, when a dying woman met a man who should have walked away, but didn't. And together, they shook the police force to its foundation.